네, 저희 머니투데이방송에서 준비한 특집 인터뷰 시간입니다. 오늘 아주 특별한 분을 모시고요. 현재 미국 시장 그리고 종목에 대한 이야기를 좀 더 나눠보려고 하는데 글로벌 ETF 운용사죠. GraniteShares의 설립자이자 CEO인 윌 라인드를 모시고 시장에 대한 이야기 나눠보겠습니다. Hi, Will.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. It's great to have you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
네, 자세한 인터뷰 들어가기 앞서서 회사에 대한 소개 간략하게 들어보도록 하겠습니다. Alright, well, so before we get into the actual interview, can you tell us a little bit about your company, GraniteShares?
Sure. So GraniteShares is a global ETF issuer or ETF company. That means that we issue ETFs, list them on the stock exchange, and market them. We're headquartered in New York City in the US, and we have ETFs listed on the US market and on all major European exchanges. The company manages around $4 billion US, and we're probably most well known for leveraged ETFs on single companies. So for example, 2x leverage ETFs on companies like Tesla, Nvidia, etc., all large investment names in the US.
Okay, so I understand that ETFs issued by your companies have been loved by a lot of Korean investors recently. So we'll talk more about that later in this interview. But first, let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on the market. Is that good?
Sure.
Yeah, so now one of the biggest discussions surrounding the US stock market at the moment is whether the market is at the peak or not. Is the valuation levels too high? What's your thought on that?
I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of positives we can take from the US market at the moment. We just heard the comments from Fed Chairman Powell that we're going to have 3 interest rate cuts between now and the end of the year, probably the first one coming in June. So interest rates are coming down, inflation is coming down. There's a presidential election coming up, which is historically positive for the US market. So overall, we have good quality earnings from the companies in the market, and there's a lot to be positive about.
All right. So let's definitely talk more about these products later on in the interview. But first of all, so I want to continue talking about your thoughts on the market, especially with some insider selling activity going on since about like a month or so ago. For example, JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, and all these people are selling their stocks, and that has really ignited some concerns that, maybe the market is peaking. What's your take on that?
I think for me, I wouldn't worry too much about that because Jeff Bezos is no longer the CEO of Amazon. So when he's selling stock, it's more for lifestyle reasons than anything else. And I think these companies are so big that really the question of insider selling is less versus, say, a smaller company. So for me, there might be some insider selling at the moment. To me, that's not an indication or not things that people should worry about. And these companies are so big that it's more about the fundamentals, more about how these companies have been producing earnings, the forward earnings results, which have been very strong in the most cases.
All right, very well. Okay, now let's talk about the FOMC. Obviously, it was a very long-awaited event and the biggest event from last week market. Chairman Powell, along with his colleagues, decided to stick with the market's previous expectations, 3 rate cuts this year. So were there any segments from Powell's comments that seemed to be interesting to you?
I think that there were no surprises. So that was probably the main takeaway. And with no surprises, 3 rate cuts between now and the end of the year. I think people are expecting the first rate cut to come in June, which, again, is no surprise. So I think the market rallied on the back of that, largely because of the confidence that Powell gave that interest rates are coming down. Inflation data, as we know, is coming down as well. So I think there's much to be positive about on the back of that conference.
So another huge event that took place last week was, of course, Nvidia's AI Developers Conference, the GTC, and they have finally revealed their monster AI chip platform, the Blackwell. So with such revelation, do you believe this is going to serve as a force to continue the AI sector rally furthermore from here?
Yes, I think so. What we saw was, very positive news coming out of the Nvidia conference, and particularly Nvidia is a stock that has just performed so well. The company is really just on fire at the moment, and it seems like sometimes that the stock has been uncorrelated from the market. In other words, if the market goes down, Nvidia still goes up, and so really they have cemented their position as being the leader in AI, especially in GPU chips, and really the AI stock to buy for a lot of investors in the United States. So really, the story of Nvidia continues to get more positive.
All right, very well. So you do believe that Nvidia has more space to run?
Yes, absolutely. I think Nvidia, of the 40 official analysts that cover the company on Wall Street, I think 38 of them still have Nvidia as a strong buy, with only 2 as a pause, and there are no sellers. So the price target keeps being adjusted upwards on Nvidia, which makes me positive about the stock, but also Wall Street as well thinks that there's a lot more room to run for Nvidia.
All right, very good. So now that we've been talking about Nvidia, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Magnificent Seven stocks, especially with Tesla's stock price going through declines and rebounds, and some recent news coming from the Shanghai factory that they're cutting down on productions. And another bad news from Apple is that the DOJ has decided to file an antitrust lawsuit against them. So with all these negative news going on, do you think that these 2 stocks will still survive?
I think so. These companies are incredibly resilient. You have Elon Musk, for example, who's the Thomas Edison of our time. And before, in different periods of strife for Tesla, and remember, Tesla's been through a lot more difficult or challenging conditions than what they're facing right now, that it's been foolish to bet against Tesla. I think Apple, again, a similar story, that they've struggled a little bit with the slowdown of the Chinese economy, just like Tesla. But, this company is so resilient that in past, it has been an opportunity to buy shares of Apple. There's no doubt that the DOJ investigation will be a distraction for the company, but the reason why there's an investigation in the first place, this shows how dominant that Apple is, and therefore for a lot of investors, that's the main sort of reason to buy the company.
I think a lot of investors or viewers that are watching at the moment are going to be relieved by what you just said. As a follow-on question to that, can you tell me what holds your conviction the most among the Magnificent Seven?
I think at the moment it's Nvidia. The 2 really standout themes where we are in the market are AI, number 1. That's the number 1 theme in the US, I would say the world right now. And then secondary, cryptocurrencies, which has been hugely popular and staged a big resurgence in the last sort of 6 to 8 months. So those are the 2 biggest themes. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, we'd have electric vehicles in there as well. But at the moment, it's AI, and therefore the leader in AI is Nvidia.
All right, Nvidia it is for you. Okay, so moving on. As the CEO of a global issuer of ETFs chosen by a lot of global investments, do you see any noticeable differences between the investment trends going on between US versus Korean retail investors?
It's difficult for me to know exactly what are the most popular stocks here in Korea, but I think that what a lot of have in common is that Korean investors like the large US tech stocks just as much as US investors like the tech stocks. So my understanding is that Tesla is a very popular stock here in Korea, that Nvidia is a very popular stock. And I think why not? These stocks are global, have really global appeal. And so when it comes to an investor, it doesn't matter whether you're in Korea or whether in the US, you want to invest in a company that's going up and has that sort of appeal. And therefore, at the moment, stocks like Nvidia, Coinbase on the cryptocurrency side have been really strong performers.
All right, I see. Is there a way that you guys can really see if Korean investors, like what kind of products Korean retail investors are interested among the ones that you guys are issuing?
Yes, we have some insight, and that's partly the reason why come to Korea and do these kind of trips to meet with investors, to meet with firms to understand exactly what investors are interested in. But yes, my understanding is that you have a lot of interest in the Magnificent Seven, and for ETFs that provide leveraged exposure to these particular companies.
All right, definitely. So now we will talk deep into that about your company, GraniteShares. So you guys do create and manage an array of single stock leverage and inverse ETFs. So before we talk more about that, can you define what a single stock leverage ETF is?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a new category that was really created by GraniteShares starting in Europe. And now we launched these products in the US. But very simply, they're leveraged ETFs. Typically, they provide 2 times leverage to a underlying popular stock such as Nvidia or Tesla, Coinbase, Apple, etc. And these products are listed on an American stock exchange, and you can buy and sell them in your brokerage account just like any other ETF. And the goal is to deliver 2 times the performance of the underlying stock. So if Nvidia stock is up 5% for the day, the leveraged Nvidia single stock ETF will be up 10% for the day, and so on and so forth.
I see. So you would say that the most popular options that you guys are providing among Korean investors are the Tesla and Nvidia leveraged products?
Yeah, at the moment it's Nvidia, and actually Coinbase is another one. So the 2 big themes that we see are AI and crypto. And so Coinbase is the leading company in the US for cryptocurrencies. And so the 2x Coinbase ETF that we have is also very popular. Tesla is always popular, but at the moment, even more popular is AI and crypto.
Of course, crypto has been rallying for quite some time now, so that makes sense. Can you tell us some of the major advantages of investing in such single stock ETFs, as well as on the flip side, what should we be cautious about?
So the major advantage is it gives leveraged long exposure to these companies. So very simply, if you're bullish on a company like Nvidia, then by investing in a leveraged ETF, you can have the opportunity for magnified or outsized returns to that stock. So when you use leverage, the opportunity is always more return, but clearly the flip side of that is that you have more risk as well. So on the upside, if you look at the performance of Nvidia, it's been amazing, but if the stock was to go down, you have more losses because you're leveraged to that stock as well. On the short side, we have some inverse ETFs and leveraged inverse. So again, that allows people to profit from falling stock prices. So for example, at the moment, you've had stocks such as Tesla that have fallen year to date. And so being in an inverse product on Tesla would allow people to participate in, make profits from the falling stock prices. But these ETFs can be used in a multitude of ways. It's really just finding a way that's comfortable and makes sense for your investment strategy.
Now, as a last question, I would appreciate to hear a portfolio strategy that you're looking into at the moment. What kind of advice would you give to investors who are thinking, is it too late to join the AI rally? Is it okay? If so, how should I strategize?
I think that clearly investors have to ultimately take that decision for themselves. But in my view, AI is really probably the defining theme of our generation. And I can't really think of perhaps a bigger theme since the advent of the internet in the late 1990s. So AI is truly transformative. There will be other companies, of course, that will participate in AI other than the likes of Nvidia. But to me, this is the strongest theme at the moment. Cryptocurrencies clearly having a moment because of the price of Bitcoin, people really looking to get exposure to that theme. And then I think, again, when you look at something like Tesla, the electrification of everything really provides that opportunity for people to invest in Tesla. So for me, there's still room to run in terms of AI with crypto as well. At the moment, those are the 2 big themes.
Okay, so you definitely are on the side of the biggest trends that are going on in the market at the moment.
Yeah, and that is what's reflected in our investors. The 2 most popular funds that we have at the moment are our 2 times Nvidia, which is Nvdl is the ticker code, and then our 2 times Coinbase ETF, which is CONL. And those are really the 2. So our investors are telling us that they believe that this is true. This is the 2 most popular ETFs. And so I think at the moment, those are the 2 big themes.
All right, very well. So we're going to wrap up our first interview right here, but I will look forward to any catch-up interviews later on in the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me on. Real pleasure.
You're welcome. 자, 지금까지 GraniteShares의 설립자이자 CEO인 윌 라인드와 함께 미국 증시에 대한 다양한 이야기, 그리고 GraniteShares에서 출시되고 있는 다양한 ETF 상품에 대한 이야기까지 나눠봤습니다. Thank you, Will.
Thank you so much for having me.